Hello, friends. It's your girl, Lisa Dannielle, and you're watching Zoom After Dark. This week, Marty Sellers comes with us to discuss mental health matters. I cannot wait for you to participate in this conversation. I know you're going to take away a lot of good information. And without further ado, Marty Sellers.
Thank you, Lisa. It is so good to see you. You look amazing, and to see you blossom into this amazing woman.
Oh
Because
my
I've
gosh.
known you since before you were a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I think we met. I think my first memory of you, I had to be 6 years old.
Wow.
I had to be 6 years old at St. James. Yep. I had to
Yes.
be 6. Yes. And I was always like running after everybody. And that pretty much was just the way it was, right? I was just the
Yeah.
hanger on, right? So it is so good to see you, and so good to see what God is doing in you in the whole counseling space and just all of that. Super, super excited. And I'm excited for our show tonight. So this is a long time coming. It seems like it's something that's trending, but I think that's one of the few things that's good that's trending, right? Because we need to talk about it. And let's just be honest, we don't want to talk about it. We rarely want to talk about it. So I'm super, super excited about this conversation. Before we get started, why don't you give people just a small background of what you do, some of the work that you're doing now, and let us know about your platforms and etc.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, again, my name is Martinez Sellers. Yes, Marty. And I am the owner of Marcel Consulting and Mental Health Services. And we are a mental health service. We do all forms of mental health practices, all levels, from children to adolescent, teenagers, young adults, married, all of that stuff. So the whole spectrum. So in that regard, it's kind of generalist. So we have 15 therapists working for me.
Wow,
So we
awesome.
cover all of that. Yes, English and in Spanish. We have also now partnered with Department of Refugee, Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is those children who have been separated from their parents because of ICE when they deport the parents back to Mexico, and the children remain here in the country because they're legal citizens, but their parents aren't. And in California alone, there are over 14,000 of those kids that are in, I say it this way, modern day concentration camps.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So do that. And then my personal platform is Mental Health Matters with Marty, where I have a podcast and I also do weekly Facebook Live shows with that. And from there, but have known you through your mother, who I know she is so proud of you, looking down and just admiring the work and the mantle that you have taking on and carrying off of her. Really, really, your mother was a powerhouse. And so seeing you take the baton and taking it to a whole nother level, it's surreal. And I'm so excited to have known your mother and seeing the God in you blossom. So that's me.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Well, listen, you know, you and I think the last time we had spoken before we talked about this was in 2011.
Yes.
And that was a very pivotal time for me. And the first time I even became intimately aware of the capacity of mental health issues. And so I want us to talk through a lot of different things tonight, but I also want to, I want to talk about what we are seeing in the church, absolutely. But I don't want to alienate those that are not necessarily in places of position, but I want to be able to cross-pollinate the conversation so that they know that whatever their sphere of influence is, if they are suffering with some variation of mental issue, disorder, anxiety, schizophrenia, whatever it is perfectly okay for them to start the conversation. the first thing is the way we talk about mental health is
Mhm.
broken.
Right.
So,
Right.
so give me your first look conversation about why you think the way we discuss mental health is broken.
I think a lot of it has to do with, and we're seeing it even today, distrust of the system.
Mm.
Some systemic things that have happened when we look at the Tuskegee experiments, when
Yes.
they told us one thing
Yep.
and they purposely infected us with syphilis and some of these other things,
Yep.
knowing that it was going to get so we have always had a distrust of a lot of systems.
Yeah.
Then if we're talking about mental health, there's a couple things. From a cultural point of view, Lisa, what we said, what goes on in this house
Right.
stays in this house. Right,
Right.
right, right. You don't tell other people our business, our problems. And so we were taught how to suppress those things. And if
Yeah.
we look back at it, Lisa, I think it really goes back to as far as slavery and then Jim Crow and all
Yeah.
these other things. When you don't have doctors and clinicians that look like us, that understand our experience, that's why this whole movement about Black Lives Matter is so important that we're
Absolutely.
discussing today, because we're not saying that your life doesn't matter, but my house is on fire. So why am I going to save your house
Right.
that's not on fire, that
Right.
has wonderful irrigation system, alarm
Right.
system, everything, and my house is burning down,
Yeah.
and you're saying your house
Yeah.
matters? Well, it does matter, but
Yeah.
my house is on fire.
Yes.
And too often those things have happened. As a Black male therapist, I represent 1% of the field.
Yep.
1%. And so when you're talking about men, who do we go to? Do we have to go to our white counterparts who
Yeah.
have no clue of what we're going through? And
Yeah.
then I come across as the angry Black man, or you as a Black woman going, so you
Yep.
come across as the angry Black woman, and not understanding cultural competency. Then if we add Black women into the fold, we might go up to 4%.
Right.
Might.
A big might.
Yeah, yeah. So one, finding someone that looks like us, that has our experience, that we can trust. And let's even be honest, in that conversation, everyone that looks like us, you can't trust everybody. I'm still amazed by those who can still side with the person who's in office right now.
Right.
And will you wake up? So you navigating through that. So making it aware that it's okay, because if we even talk about the church, we want to pray everything away, demonize everything from that. But we talk about it, we say, well, keep the kids away from Ray Ray, because y'all know Ray Ray is a little special. He's touched. Instead of saying,
Right.
Ray Ray has a problem, and
Right.
we deal with it, you know.
Right.
Uh, and so now it's time, I believe, my passion is to help heal the hurting families, especially Black men.
Yeah.
I don't know, Lisa, if you ever knew that I grew up in a domestic violent household, so that's how I ended up in
Mhm.
California. So
Okay.
for 16 years, I saw my father beat
Mhm.
my mother.
Yeah.
My pastor knew it.
Yep.
Everyone in the city knew. I grew up in a little small hick town in
Mhm.
Ohio. Everyone knew it.
Yep.
Now, my father was a great provider. I
Yep.
don't, we had the best of everything, lived in the best of neighborhoods, in the quote unquote white neighborhoods, but we were hurting so bad. And we're like, well, why? I would trade places with it. No, you don't know what goes on in this house. We
Right.
are all traumatized. We are all so my mother moved to California to put
Yeah.
as many miles away from him, but she needed therapy as well,
Yeah.
because she had 16 years that she didn't know how to get rid of. And my mother is 74 now. My father has been dead for 5 years, and she still has nightmares to this day.
Yep.
And so we have to pull back those hurts and deal with them, and really help people navigate through a lot of our issues. Because if not, we're going to perpetuate the problem. And so our children are going to carry on those burdens that we have, because we never addressed them and dealt with them.
Well, and it's so funny to me because I think that when we start having the mental health conversation, no matter what race we are, we all walk into it with a predisposition that
Yes.
we know what mental health looks like.
Right.
When the truth of the matter is that we are only just touching the surface, because
Yes.
just if you look at the huge departure between someone who has anxiety and someone who has schizophrenia versus someone that has a socio psychological disorder like narcissism, or just looking at those different dynamics for every single one, and how polar, the polarization of the differences between the two. If you look at all of those, it is so arrogant to walk into a conversation about mental health presuming that what dynamics are there, or self-diagnosing people. Like, case in point, I'll give you a good example. I saw someone the other week say how tired they were of seeing people diagnose people with narcissism. And it was so funny to me because they were like, you have to know what narcissistic disorder looks like. The difference between being narcissistic and suffering from narcissism. Now, when you've been in an environment where you've been in therapy or counseling and you're trained to spot a narcissist, that's different.
Yes.
But a lot of times what we do, a lot of people go, I'm just so sick of it. It's an overused word now. Well, let's just be honest about where we come from. A lot of the things that we suffered from, we didn't know what it was called.
Exactly.
And now that we have some experience on the path with it, yes, we can recognize it. And unfortunately, yes, especially in our community, it's more prevalent than we've been made aware of. If you have someone who's wildly talented and very, very self-absorbed and very obsessed with themselves to the point where they can do things to the peril of their family, they can do all of those things are baseline traits for a narcissist.
Come on. Yes.
But in the church, we hail that person. They're really talented. There's no way they could possibly, not understanding that that's the ideal place for them to be.
Yes. And we have to stop demonizing everything in that regards as well, because what I found, let's take bipolar. And I love that narcissistic, because people can have narcissistic traits.
Right, without being a narcissist. Right.
Yes, most definitely. Absolutely. And when we're looking at something as simple, not as simple as bipolar, we're looking at bipolar. Bipolar 1, first and foremost, there is a genetic pattern in there. I always say, you got to shake the family tree. I do genographs so many times with my patients, because I'm like, let's talk about your parents. Let's talk about your grandparents. Let's talk about your aunties and I'm just doing the line. So I'm like, do you see this pattern that's happening?
Yes.
With that. And bipolarness is simply this. It's a chemical imbalance. Me, I tell you, I have high blood pressure. It is a trait that runs in my family. I tried everything. I was the last of my siblings to go on blood pressure medicine. At 45, no. 42, I had to say, listen, I gotta get on this blood pressure medicine. No matter what I did, exercising, eating healthy, getting rid of fats and frieds and all this, I still was having headaches. So I had to say, Marty, this is a problem that you have.
Things are just in your blood.
Yeah, in my blood. And my doctor was like, Marty, there's nothing you can do about it. And so he put me on the lowest one, and that's the one I've been on. But I tell people who have bipolar or even schizophrenia, that's a whole nother one. But with bipolar, like I have high blood pressure, if I don't take my meds every day, it is going to have a negative adverse effect on me. I can accept that, as opposed to saying, listen, you have bipolar. You are bipolar. It's a chemical imbalance that you cannot control, but on your own. So these meds help you to sustain the life that you have, so that you can have a point of normalcy, so that you're not having these highs, having these lows, unpredictable, can't hold a job, cannot do your daily activities for daily living. And we have to have these honest conversations. Yes, we can pray. Yes, we encourage you to pray, but I can still pray and see my therapist all at the same time and maintain
Listen.
my salvation. Come on, Holy Ghost.
And sometimes the Holy Ghost is telling you, you need
Yes,
somebody else to help you.
right.
Okay, that's why I put him here.
Yes.
And we need to get to that. It's like everything
Yes.
is, and I'm not, trust me, you know me, you and I have had conversation.
We church
I do
people.
not discount that
No.
some of it can be spiritual. But
Yes.
some things you just from your bloodline are predisposed to, and
Yes.
there's no shame in you going
Right.
and getting help to address those issues.
And what we even propose, there's enough research out there, Lisa, and that's what I'm so glad you're doing too, that therapy and Christendom or whatever your religious faith is,
Yep.
do you know that we actually encourage it because it lowers and cuts the treatment and the symptomologies down in half, because
Yep.
what the scripture tells you to meditate, tells you to pray, tells you to keep your balance. So it is working in favor of your therapy. So I
Yep.
try to tell pastors, listen, I'm not trying to be a preacher.
Yep.
Well, not a pastor.
Yep.
I'm trying to help the congregation. I want to be
Right.
your aid. I'm not trying to stand in the pulpit every Sunday. That's not my calling
Right.
in that regard. So it's a wonderful conversation we're having, and
Yep.
especially since the first time in history, everybody was on the sick and shut-in list because of COVID. And
Right.
we have to now be prepared to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yep.
We have to deal with this huge anxiety
Yep.
that's happening, and even for pastors.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, I am looking at this and I want to talk about exactly what you talked about. I want to read something. So the CDC publishes a article that's a weekly report. It's called Morbidity, and Mortality, the weekly report.
Yes.
And it talks about the National Violent Death Reporting System data. And one of the things that in preparation for this interview, I noticed was in 2017, nearly 38,000 persons of working age between 16 and 64 in the United States died by suicide, which represents a 40% increase, 12.9 per 100,000 population in 2000. That's 40% in less than 2 decades. And then it's compared with rates in the total study population. Suicide rates were significantly higher in 5 major industry groups: mining, quarry, oil and gas, males; construction, males; other services, males; agriculture, forestry, fishing and hunting, males; transportation and warehousing, males and females. And then there were rates significantly higher in 6 major occupational groups, which was construction and extraction, male and female; installation, maintenance, and repair, males; arts, design, entertainment, sports, and media, males; transportation and material moving, male and female; protective service, females; healthcare support, females. So I look at this data, and this is just doing a comparison between 2000 and 2017, not even taking into consideration where we are right now, what we have seen, a gross influx of suicide in the church, and not just anywhere in the church, but in our pulpits.
Yes.
Pastors are leaving their pulpits and driving somewhere and killing themselves.
Yes.
And I
It's
think
that topic too, because September is Suicide Awareness Month.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. I didn't plan that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
That's the Holy Ghost. So September is, and I have lost a wow, every time I think about him, I get emotional. A young Black man to suicide about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And the odd thing is his name was Richard Love. Well, his name is Richard Love, and the very thing he needed was that love.
Yeah.
And he took a bus from Southern California to San Francisco. That's on a bus, a 10 to 12 hour ride to jump off of the Golden Gate Bridge at age 22. And when we look at suicide amongst our men, especially Black men, ages as young as 10 years old, which is devastating to that 25 age group. It has increased over the past 10 years, and this is off the top of my head, some 200% amongst our Black and brown young men. And men are more, and I don't know another better term to say, successful at it. When they do it, it is a final thought, and very few men recover from it. I actually have a client right now who point blank shot himself. The bullet is still in his back right now. Because and we even talk about, he says, God has a purpose for me. He did it when he was 15 years old. He's 25 now. Because if they're afraid if they take the bullet out, they're going to hit his spinal cord and leave paralyzed. Yes, with that. And he talks about the darkness he had because those people, those men feel like they don't have hope. And we have to have these conversations and create safe spaces specifically for Black and brown men to say, I'm done. Because Lisa, or I'm tired. Think about it. As men, we're told, shut up, don't show emotions, suck it up, don't be a punk, all these things. You're being a girl. Because so men, that's why even in relationships, it's so difficult because they don't know how to express their emotions. By the time a young lady is age 6, she already has 5,000 to 10,000 more words than the average 6-year-old boy. Which is amazing.
I know I have more words. Yes, absolutely.
Right. And so we have to create these. So thank you for even having those statistics because it is so alarming. And we have not even really put our threshold on the suicide rates that have happened because of COVID as well, that people are losing hope with that.
And then what about, when we talk about it and, I want to be careful because I want to make sure that we're clear, right? That, we care about the being of everyone. But one thing I want to say is that I have had lots of conversations with African American men in the millennial age group. Usually between 20 and 26, that are getting to this place of despair where they feel like, I'm going to die anyway. I would rather do it myself than to die brutally on social media where my mother can see it. Or I have no way of supporting my family. And as a Black man from the beginning of time, you are taught that that is your function. Your function is to provide. So COVID has brought about another level of despair for these young men. And I am always absolutely sensitive to, but sometimes at an impasse that I don't know how to discuss it intimately because some of it I cannot relate to. If you talk to me, an African-American woman that's in a professional environment, I can talk about the glass ceiling 24 hours a day. I can talk about the disparities between pay between men and women. But living every single day, watching people that only look like you die in public, and a world that while we saw an uprising with George Floyd, you have your particular country that's telling you, you being upset about people dying is inconveniencing me. Can you be quiet? Well, the problem is, before they became these millennial men, they were quiet. right? With just how we deal with things. Suck it up, be strong, don't cry, don't show emotion, don't. And now you not only have your family grooming you this way, but now you go into a world that expects that of you as well, no matter how you're treated. How can they feel anything but despair?
You're absolutely right with that. And you know, it's been said so many times, the knee is on our neck and we can't breathe.
Right.
One of my sayings that I do say all the time is speak up, speak out in order that we might live.
Yeah.
We can no longer be silent.
Yeah.
We can no longer just shut up. I'm at the point where I don't care if you're tired of hearing my rhetoric. I'm going to say it with that. And most people, you said something very interesting with that, not being able necessarily to relate, but you can empathize with them.
Absolutely.
A lot of times, those who are going through suicide ideation, and I would say at least once a month, if not every other month, I usually have someone that I am talking to over the phone for hours, or just, you know, trying to get them to the necessary help and everything in those regards. A lot of times they just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Too often we feel like we have to have the answers. I don't have the answers.
Right.
I just listen to them. I hear them.
Yeah.
Sometimes and I've been there, Lisa, where I've cried with them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "Because I feel your pain."
Yeah.
And I can relate to it, even though I'm not standing in your shoes.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're being this vulnerable, I want to be there with you and support you through it in that regard. So I share with people, definitely, just be a open ear.
Yeah.
You know, for someone, allow them to vent. As always, I share this. There's always hotlines that you can call, the suicide hotline. Most counties also have crisis team, so you don't necessarily have to call the police because, you know, police do something totally different a lot of times. Or if you do call the police, say, listen, connect me to the crisis response team because I need to assess and I want them to go to the hospital and not to jail.
Right. Absolutely.
And as a caveat, y'all, if you already have family members that have a severe mental health disorder, let your local police station know and have them registered as mentally fragile or a mental health disorder. So if they do have a run-in with the law, when they pull their name, it will come up so that they can, that's one step closer to them not being beaten or anything like that, that they know, at least say, hey, you should have known. And I'm sure it came up because I personally made the call that they have some mental health issues. So you're not to treat them the same and call the mental health crisis team as opposed to the police.
And I want you to highlight that one more time, because I can tell you for sure, I'm almost certain that there are people that don't even know that that's a thing. Because when I hear about how many autistic boys are killed, and they had no idea, just let me know again what the resource is so that people can call and register their family.
Most definitely, especially if you have autistic children and they may have the tendency to wander, or if you're seeing some abnormal behaviors.
Right.
And there's something that might be severe, they're wandering or that, let your local, I would even go down to the police station, introduce, I am Marty Sellers. I live at this address. I have family members who are living with me who have mental health conditions.
Right.
I am doing everything I can to maintain them. However, if you should ever get a call, I need you to first, I'm going to register them as having mental health condition, but I need to also call the mental health crisis team or take them to the hospital before you shoot them, tackle them to the ground or anything. This needs to be the first order of business.
Absolutely.
And then that local chief's number, all of those things, cards. And if I find they're out of control, I'm going to likewise call you and let them know, hey, so-and-so's, I don't need the police in that regards, but I'm just letting you know. So that we can do. And I know that because I have a nephew who's bipolar. No, I'm sorry, schizophrenic.
Okay.
And he has some highs and lows when he's not taking his meds.
Yeah.
We're nervous about it. He's 23. You know, he's legal age, so we have to let the Houston Police Department know, hey, this young man has some mental health issues,
Yeah.
and with that, because they have arrested him before
Yeah.
uh, for some things and didn't understand why. Because
Yeah.
we will see them maybe even using some drugs and that,
Yeah.
especially if they're not on their medication. They'll go through weed like you won't believe because it
No,
tries to.
I have family members,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
with
And I
that,
think it levels them out, not realizing that
yes.
the change that is happening in their brain is chemical when they're on their
Yes.
medication.
Yes.
And so they need to keep taking their medication,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And consistently taking. It's like, well, I don't always like, I have a family member who says, well, I sleep more than I normally do when I'm on my meds. But when you're not, you're so all over the place. At least when you've slept, you can get up and you're functional. When you're
Yeah.
not taking your meds, you're not functional at all.
And let me say that, since you said that too, always continue to do a med check. Go back to your psychiatrist, go back to your practice, say, hey, I'm sleeping way too much.
Yep.
What else can we do? Are there any other medications we can look at and do that too?
Maybe a lower
Because
dosage or something like that.
yes,
Right.
I'm in the process of getting together Black psychiatric nurse practitioners,
Oh, awesome.
because we also know, just like we know that certain blood pressure medicine
Yeah.
also kills us as Black people, we
Yeah.
also need to know what psychotropic meds are not really for us as well.
Absolutely.
So I have this brilliant young man, Jabari Dotson, down in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and then my sister, Lisa Galoni, in Philadelphia. And they are amazing, because they're going to hear you. They're going to do a thorough psychiatric evaluation,
Yeah.
do some tests. And the purpose is having these conversations
Yeah.
so that you talk to your psychiatrist, you talk to your therapist,
Yep.
give everyone permission. We have to do this integrative approach to
Yeah.
medicine so that we can heal our community. Definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to transition to another form or train of thought for a moment. A lot of times you hear about women who are, going about their life. Life is good. They love their family. They love their friends, and they get married and they have a baby, and
Yeah.
they have a wonderful pregnancy and they have a wonderful child, and they go through the normal stuff, which is, we cry for a little while for about a week. And then they're, because everything's all out of whack and it's not going back in time, the baby's not sleeping, it's like,
Right.
it's normal psychosis, right?
Yes.
Right? Because we're delirious.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
tired and we want to go to bed. And then they have a second child. And I have a friend who had a second child. And she had a mental break with her second child.
Yes.
Where she was having this thing where she would envision, she would mentally see herself walking down a hallway and there'd be a baby carrier over there, and she'd look and there'd be a gruesome sight of the baby. This is gruesome sight. And it was over and over and over again, to the point where she actually wrote a book. She would break out of her house. She would take off running. She could be in the car with her husband. He would be holding the door to keep the door closed, for fear that when they were on the freeway, she would just get out and try to kill herself, because she just wanted her mind to return to where it was. And she just could not deal. And a lot of time, I'm leading to the question, which is, taking all of that into consideration, perfectly normal life, master's degree, PhD, college, then you marry the man of your dreams. You have one, everyone's dream is the 2.5 kids. You have the first kid, you buy your brand new house, life is good. You have a second kid, and you're insane. Can mental health issues suddenly manifest?
Of course. I think she's prime example of that. Women, God created you all with this amazing ability to be able to nurture a baby. And then when you're going through that, you double your hormones. And then
They
So,
are doubled, okay?
yes,
Double.
yes.
Yes,
You're feeding this baby,
all
and
of them.
yes, yes, yes. And I did some postpartum counseling. It's very funny that a man is doing postpartum
Yeah,
with, but then after you have the baby,
yeah,
you then stop the doubling because you're not taking all those hormone pills and
right.
the all, everything else like that,
Yeah,
and it's really your body's going through shock.
yep,
It's almost, and I would imagine part of it probably feels to the severe cases as an addict that has now stopped getting the very thing that used to make them feel good. That's that drug with it.
yeah,
Your body is going back, and it can take a year plus for women to get back to their normal cycle
yes,
with that. So yes, psychosis or some sort of temporary one can, until you try and get those chemical balances back going in
yeah,
the brain and all that. I wish there was more teaching on those type of things, even though
yeah,
those are um, really the exception, but there are more exceptions than we like to think of as well. And
yeah,
we as men have to be more sensitive to our wives and our women that are first and foremost bringing life into this world.
yeah,
And for practically 2 years, your life has been put on hold because you are nurturing this child for 9 months and giving
yep,
it. Then afterwards, you're telling your body, okay, it's time. And then if you're nursing and breastfeeding and those type of things, you're still
right.
producing.
And there's nesting, right? There's a
Yes,
nesting period. There's
yes,
bonding that has, that
yes,
has to take place, and so that the baby knows I'm his mama, right? And all that good stuff. Like there's just things that have to happen. And there are things that people tell you nothing about that can happen to you
yes,
after you have a child. Like I think of one extreme thing. Women in my family have always had issues with their woman time.
hmm,
And my mom had extreme premenstrual syndrome to the
mm,
point where she had to learn how to navigate that because she
yes,
didn't understand it. She saw it in her family where they would just flip, but
hmm,
she didn't understand how to gauge it. And the
yes,
blessing in it for me was that when I then began to go through it, she was
hmm,
able to teach me how to recognize it,
right,
right? That it can be very extreme.
yes,
And you only hear about this one, like, oh, I'm just a little grumpy, right? And then I think it was right around 94, we saw this woman that was just a little grumpy so much that she like killed somebody. You know what I mean? And
yes,
because in that moment, it was just like,
hmm,
I said, don't touch me and
right,
stabbed them, right? You know what
right,
I
right,
mean?
right,
So we have all of these ripples
yes,
of mental deviations that we have normalized so
yeah.
much that we try to ignore them, and then later in life they become these big things, right? And they come back for us.
What I love that you're doing, Lisa, is what I wholeheartedly believe in. One, as a therapist, I have a stronger connection with my patients than most primary care because they
Right,
give you, you got 15 minutes, and they got to, most psychiatrists and
right,
all that, because I now built this relationship. I have some patients that have gone through some severe trauma that I have seen for now 3 years
wow,
with that. And so now, as a result, she trusts me with her vocal doctor. She trusts me with her primary care. She
yeah,
trusts me with her OBGYN. So now we're able to make a collective integrative decision
right,
together. Like, did you share that you did that? And so the primary care were like, I didn't know that. And the vocal, well, I didn't know that either. And then the vocal co. So by we're
right,
doing looking at the whole person
yeah,
and not just a piece of the person.
yeah,
So we can come up with the best collective diagnosis, and we're all
yes,
working in concert. Imagine if that person, that woman, was able to have her OBGYN, talk to her therapist, talk to the psychiatrist, talk to the general practitioner,
yep,
and then get the family in together
yep,
in therapy, how her healing would have been so much. And even at bringing your priest or your pastor and everything,
Yeah.
not that they need to know all that, but they know how to pray for you,
Right.
support you, and
Exactly.
all of that. We would be a much healthier society if
Yeah.
we work on that and trust therapists. My job is not, again, to tell you as the patient what to do, but to
Yep.
point out patterns, especially different negative and positive patterns, so that you can now make an informed choice for yourself about how you want to live your life.
Yeah. And I think, I wanted to touch on this because I know that for me personally, when I decided that I was going to pursue going to therapy, talk
Right.
through my stuff and all that good stuff. And one of the things that I wish people would get away from, we hear it all the time. They say, therapy is useless because all they do is sit there and ask you questions. And I think that excuse me, I think that in the course of that, they don't realize that a therapist is asking you questions so you can see how you're navigating to the answer and recognize the faulty stuff, the belief systems that are inserted in there. What made you come to that conclusion? Well, why did you decide to do this that way? And so as you're sitting there and you're frustrated with them, and they're like, well, why are you asking me? That's what I'm here for. I'm so that you can, and they'll say, well, who told you that such and such? And then you go, oh, right. That is a learned wrong belief about yourself.
Yes.
Right.
We have so many learned behaviors, and my job is to challenge the cognitive distortions and the dissonant thoughts that you have, or just as I like to say it, I'm challenging your stinking thinking.
Right. Yep.
So that you can now look at, say, wait a minute. I used to do that. And it's so good, when we titrate our patients down. I have, what I try to do, I tell them all the time, I want to do the first 8 sections on a weekly basis, because that's how we're going to build rapport. After that, we'll decide how we have to go. Maybe we might go every other week. And then from there, we might go once a month or once a quarter. And I have a couple that I see once a quarter. And they're like, okay, we had some problems, but we worked them out. We remembered all the tools you gave us. That's the ultimate end goal, that you are able to problem solve without me. To share it. So my sessions are like not even 20 minutes with them. Like, okay, I can't even charge you for this one. Right. So get off my phone. That is the goal, to help you live the life you want to live, and the life that you desire to live. But we gotta wade through a lot of this learned and negative learned behaviors that we have encountered, and push past, maybe whether it's the trauma, the anxiety, because I believe that 50% of anxiety is learned anxiety.
Absolutely.
I have a patient, and I said, well, who else is that? Well, my mother's anxious. Well, where did she? Well, her mother was anxious. Well, you learned how to be anxious because of them. So she goes, oh my God, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I've told someone, I said, I had to remember and realize that, a lot of times people say, don't fear and don't worry. And fear and worry have been in your life longer than most people.
Yes.
You talk to them.
Yes.
Because they feel like a person. I tell people, fear is a person. He is walking with you every single day. You have made a bed for him. You have invited him in, and you sat him down. And when God says, do this, you go, should I do that?
Right.
Oh, you're not qualified. You can't do that. You can't get through that. You know what I mean? So we know intimate relationships with fear and worry. And so every day you have to fight against that. I'll give you a little bird's eye view. My grandmother, my mother's mother, I never met. She died when she was 42 years old.
Oh, wow. Of
kidney failure.
Okay.
My mother died exactly 10 years after that. Both deaths were sudden. So what did the enemy say to me? You're going to die young. Because your mother died young.
Right.
And her mother died young. So you're going to die young. And God's like, who told you that?
Right. Right.
Yes, you will die young if you believe it.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
I've given you power. And this is the thing about it. Now we got to be spiritual for 1 second, y'all. Listen.
Yeah. Yes.
This is the thing. Power of life and death. God has given to you in your mouth.
That's
and
right.
If I was your enemy, I would know that I did not have power to kill you.
That's right.
And I can make you kill you.
Right.
Right? I can make you run yourself in the grave because I know that God has given you that power. He hasn't given it to me, but he's given it to you. So what do? I torment you until you kill yourself.
Right.
Even if it's by convincing yourself you're sick, hypochondriacs, even no matter what it is, if I can get you to declare it enough, right, then it becomes a truth for you.
That's why positive affirmations. I'm writing a book, and I'm hoping it'll be out. My goal is Thanksgiving, but if not, it'll be January. But it's called Stop the Stinking Thinking, and it's 30 days of positive affirmations. I challenge a lot of those who have anxiety and worry and frustration to say that. Lisa, you'd be surprised how many people cannot say. I said, your homework this week, it's very simple. To say 3 words: I am enough.
Yep.
And they will argue with me, and I can't say that. Why not? Because I'm not. I said, who said you're not?
Right.
Well, I don't think I am. Okay.
Right.
Say it right here. I can't.
Yep.
No. And then when we say, put our name in it, I, Marty Sellers, am enough. Now I'm changing the neuroplasticity in my brain. In other words, I'm changing the pathways of my process because I've spoken it, and now I have to start thinking it.
All the branches are changing now, right? They're firing because we made a declaration, right, about ourselves. And the thing is, and it feels weird, when you get to a place where you actually love yourself and believe that you are worthy just as you are, not with more money, not with more, you know what I mean, influence, none of that, just as you are. When you start to believe that, you almost have to transition your entire life because you realize that the byproduct of your thinking has been surrounding you your whole life. Every decision.
Every decision. And so with stop. So what I teach them says, listen, we're stopping the toxic thoughts. Dr. Caroline Leaf says it this way. When we have toxic, don't you love her?
I love her.
She says, listen, when you have these toxic thoughts, it is taking up too much valuable mental real estate in our mind. So do you want to live next to the gutter, or do you want to live in Bel Air?
Right.
You have the choice. You have the choice. Even though you may not physically be there, you start thinking it, and you'll start thinking different. You'll start acting different, and then people will treat you differently.
Listen, and sometimes people will exit.
Yes.
And that's okay. Because let me tell you, when you've surrounded yourself with a certain type of people based on your beliefs about yourself, when you no longer believe that about yourself, you become uncomfortable for those people. The answer is not to change back to who you were. The answer is to get the people that were supposed to be there in the first place.
Yes.
So you can continue to.
Yep. And it is a cognitive choice.
Yes.
In doing that, I did a whole session yesterday on the song "Let It Go."
Wow.
Because that's a mindset. She said, "I have a 4-year-old."
Theological. I don't care what anybody says. Okay. Taylor had me preaching that song for a year. I had to listen to it every day. Yeah.
Because when she goes to that part, here I am and here I stand. Come what may, the cold never bothered me anyway. When you think about that, you said, listen, I, enough is enough. I am enough. I am worthy. I am lovable. I am loving. I'm worthy of love. Listen, that's my stance. Come what may. You know what? Here I am, and this is what I'm standing on. This, come whatever.
Right.
Listen, y'all didn't bother me anyway. I already know what cold feels like. So the only thing I have to do now is walk in warmth and love.
And this is the thing. I like me.
Yes.
For the first time in my life.
Yes.
I like me. I wish I would.
Right.
Let somebody come in here. You hear me?
I wish a ninja would.
Right. I'm good over here. Like, what y'all not gonna do is come over here and jack up what God and fix. Because
That's
when
right.
you put it back together,
That's right.
it changes your entire, your vision changes.
Yes.
Literally,
Yes.
your vision. There's a section of my book that I talk about the connection between the heart and your vision, and how your broken heart literally physiologically changes how well your eyes work. And that is the same mentally.
Because we put on the shades of darkness of grief. And so everything we're looking at is from that perspective, from the glasses of anxiety, the eyeglasses of trauma, as opposed to once we finally be like, oh my God, because when you are mentally ill, when you are hurting, you will allow people into your life that if you were well, Bishop Noel Jones said this, that you will go, how did you get here? Because I must have been crazy, because there's no way I were in my right mind would I have allowed you in my life, have given you keys to my place, have allowed you into my heart. I had to be sick because you're sick.
Right. And listen, how can two walk together?
Right.
Unless they agree. Unless they agree.
Yes. So as we change your mindset, as now we're creating new neurological plasticity and pathways in your mind, you're going to take off and rip off those old glasses and put on fresh ones that you can see more clearly. That's why the rear view mirror is so small. We need to be focused on moving forward and stop looking behind. Because if you look behind, you're going to wreck yourself. So that's why we got to listen, press toward the mark.
Listen. You preaching. Okay, hold that thought. Now listen, we ain't asked y'all no questions yet. If you have questions, type them in the chat. We want to make sure we give y'all some time to ask some questions. But Marty, I want you to do me a favor.
Yes.
I want you to tell Christians a few things for me. The first thing is, I want you to tell Christians it's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel emotion. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be overwhelmed. A lot of times, because we know the promises that promises of God are yea and amen. We know that we win in the end. We think that we will walk through this world with Teflon on, and we'll never feel the effects of being surrounded by what's going on. And so a lot of Christians are very, very moved right now by the fact that so much is going on in the world. COVID is happening. I mean, it's an overwhelming, frustrating, unnerving, abnormal time.
Yes.
How do we accept? Sometimes the only way to healing is just acceptance. How do we accept where we are and acknowledge that it doesn't make us believe God any less?
Yes, right.
Because we're feeling these things.
So first I put on my spiritual hat with that. Christ went through all those emotions.
Come on.
Christ wept. Christ was angry.
Yes.
Christ was moved with compassion.
Yes.
In those things. Christ had to pull himself and go alone at times. So those are just normal, everyday. At some point in time, all of us have had some adjustment disorder.
Absolutely.
There are some anxiety that is healthy. Anxiety when a car is coming, that's good, so that it motivates you to move.
Come on.
Yes. In that regard. So what we have to learn to do is, what I've learned to do, Lisa, is first identify the emotions I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And sit in them for a moment and ask myself, is this emotion, is it congruent to the current actions that are taking place in my life? Because if it does not match, I give myself permission to say, okay, anxiety, I don't have time for you right now. I'm going to deal with you later.
Yep.
Because right now, the pressing thing I have to do is ahead of me. Well, I need to go to work, or I need to get up my baby going? But because that thing, I have to, that's not happening until tomorrow. So identifying where you are at, sitting in those emotions, and then prioritizing what is necessary.
Yeah.
When you start to get into that habit and doing that, it's a habit you have to teach yourself to do. Then you'll start to not saying that you won't worry, not saying that you won't have anxiety, but the anxiety and the worry won't overtake you. You will overtake it and put it in its proper place.
Yep. Well, you know what? I want to ask you, how important is mental health maintenance, and what does that look like?
Yes, I like to call that self-care.
Yeah.
Knowing when your triggers are pushed, when your buttons are pushed, and when you need to say, I need a mental break.
Yep.
Because if I don't check and do something for me,
listen,
don't like me.
I'm gonna kill everybody in there.
Right. And we have to, and mental health and self-care could be something as simple as, you know what, I'm gonna just take me a break and lock myself in my room, burn a few little candles, get some aromatherapy going, do some yoga, or take me a extra long hot shower. Maybe it's walking in the park. Maybe it's listening to some music. It could be paying some bills so that you get that off of you.
Yeah.
While you're
cleaning out your garage.
Yes.
Just throwing everything away. Yeah. Why do I have this? Yeah.
That mental maintenance is so important, so that you're remaining balanced, and so that you're identifying when your scales are tilted and tipped some type of way in there, so that you recognize those triggers, so that you're again in control of it, so you're not displacing wrong emotions over other people, but making sure that you're taking control of your life.
Yes. No, that is good. And I think, what's funny is that in this environment, I do a lot of stuff on relationships and singleness and marriage. And I kid you not, every single person that speaks always talks about self-care. They always do. It is imperative. And I had a week this week where self-care was necessary. And I just said, listen, I got to go out and I don't care if I got to put my mask on and do whatever. I need some time by myself to just be me and deal with everything that I have going on, because it just felt it just felt like so much. There was so much to do. And God is so faithful, right? That he will send what you need when you need it. But let's be honest, like this whole thing, like I see people posting online, and it was funny. My daughter and I were talking today, and we were talking about Cardi B. And Cardi B filed for divorce this week. And a lot of people go, it's a famous person. It's no big deal. I remember going through divorce in front of church folks. And how deafening and frustrating that was. I cannot even imagine, right? Don't y'all crucify me because we talk about Cardi B. Y'all probably listen to it on the way over here. Don't y'all get brand new with me today. All I'm saying is that everybody is entitled to peace. And going through something that is so deeply personal and so deeply public. I think about Kate Spade. She was absolutely at the top of her game. And at the thought of her marriage crumbling before the public, she just said, I can't deal with this. I'm done. And I think about Anthony Bourdain. I think about all of these people. I watched a documentary called The Price of Gold, if you've never seen it. And it is a documentary done by Michael Phelps, and it talks about the mental health of the Olympians and the real life that they have, the pressure that they have. So you have one Olympian who's got 10 gold medals, but because he's got 10 gold medals in like spear throwing, he gets some kind of subsidy for like $14,000 a year. So He's working at a local gym making
Yep.
smoothies. And then you've got Michael Phelps, who's a swimmer. And so because America likes swimming more, he's got millions of dollars in a deal.
Yes.
And he's got the pressure of keeping that because he's got friends that are making $14,000.
Yeah.
And then they've trained for something their entire life. And the moment it's won, they get home, they're remembered for a week, and nobody says anything to them again.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again in this documentary, you just hear them talking about, and you see these people that are so, I mean, they're the top of their game. They're the best in the world, and they're killing themselves. One guy killed himself at Olympic camp because he was just done.
Yeah.
And he had 12 gold medals. 12.
Yeah. I believe that our professional and Olympic athlete, we need to have mental health on board for them.
And they said they have no resources. They've called people. They've said, I feel like killing myself. The one man who actually ended up killing himself wrote a book and talked about an attempt. And even after talking about that attempt, the Olympics did nothing to get him mental health. And he ends up dying 2 years later.
That's so tragic. It is. And going back to Cardi, you know, my heart goes out for her because you're right. To now have to hear public ridicule about something that is so personal and private.
And to know your child will know it because it will be in history books for the rest of her life.
Yes. We don't know what went on in their household. And divorce, I don't care what kind of divorce it is. It's painful.
Yep.
It's hurting. It's very personal. You go through your own mental health. I think I was depressed for a good 2 to 3 years after my divorce and everything. And it was very like yours. I get it. Yours was even more public than mine in that regards. And it's hurting because you then begin to question your own.
I literally did not know. I just found out right now.
Oh!
Dang years old when I found out you were divorced. I'm not kidding. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes, yeah. You know, and so we go through that, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to go through in front of your family because everybody, let's just be honest. And I tell people this all the time. You tell me if I'm right. I tell people this all the time. My ex-husband has not only have we divorced, but he has remarried since me. Okay. And I don't know what's going on now because we don't communicate at all. But one thing I can say, every time someone who I have not seen in years sees me, the first thing they feel like they need to do is tell me something about him.
And you're like,
and I'm like, okay, and I tell people all the time, I go, oh, you felt like telling me, okay. Can I ask you a question? And they said, yeah. I said, let's do a scenario. Let's say
that's your mama coming out right there.
Let's do a little scenario real quick, okay? Let's imagine in our sanctified imagination that we're walking on the stage at the Grammys.
Right.
And we lose our footing and we slide to the front of the stage where the whole world could see us.
Right.
In 2011.
Yes.
And like, okay. I'm like, and imagine it's 2020. And you say, hey, girl. And I say, hey. And you go, remember when you slid all the way to the front of the stage because you fell down?
Right.
On the best night of your life? Oh, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, that's how someone who's divorced feels.
Yes.
Every time you bring it up, it's a failure. I don't understand why we as people love talking more about our failures than our successes.
Because we're comfortable with that.
Yes.
Because most of us don't know how to feel success or live in it and really accept it because we're so used to failure. We're so used to people putting us down.
You're so sweet. I have a different theory.
Oh, okay. What's your theory? That they even...
My theory is that if I let you get out of that box I put you in a long time ago,
whoa, okay,
then that allows you to make me question why I'm still in mine.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm used to you, and I don't want you to get so far along that you forget that you were Lisa that slipped and fell to the front of that stage. And I was there. I saw you fall.
Okay. There are some that I hear what you're saying, that are jealous because you have made it and they haven't.
It's not even about a made it thing. It's just people, it's about you changing. People don't like change.
You're right.
So any change they feel is an affront to them. Don't stop being the person I knew. And let me remind you with the one thing that nobody else may know about you, but I know it. I want to make sure you know that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So let me show you that you failed at the front of that stage. Okay? I was there when you fell. I saw you slip. We'll be the first one to say, I saw you slip when it was hanging, honey.
He's like, yeah, but I got up.
But I got up, okay?
But I got up.
Right. The fall didn't kill me.
Yeah, and apparently you're still down in the gutter.
Right, because you have a good memory about everything of mine. And I have too much grace to remember those things.
That's
about
right.
me, right?
That's right.
So absolutely.
And that's a mindset too.
Yeah.
To not allow those things to continue to bother us. I was trying to be real deep and spiritual and it didn't work. But forgetting those things which are behind us, yes.
Yes, you are so funny. That is hilarious. You said, well, as we push forward. Listen, no, I got you. Marty, I can talk to you all night. So listen.
I understand.
Listen, I want us, but all joking aside, this has been a great conversation because I think that we need to be reminded, especially as people in ministry.
Yes.
We need to be given an opportunity.
Yes.
To bleed to someone if we are hurting.
Yes. Yes.
And we need to know that it won't come with any daggers. It won't come with any judgment.
Yes.
Right. But that we'll just be able to go somewhere and work through our things.
Yes.
And I feel like, especially as people in ministry, especially as Christians, we have this stigma that says you have to have it together all the time. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And so I want you to give us a final thought. Give us a what to do and why, right? Why we have to abandon this thinking and move forward with the life that God has for us, because it can be good if we hold on long enough.
Lisa, I say it this way. We have to stop suffering in silence in the shadow of shame.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in that, because you don't have to be ashamed or ashamed of the mistakes you may have made in your past.
Yeah.
And that all of us have some sort of past we're healing from. And that talking to and finding a therapist, listen, I think you're all the more stronger for looking for one and saying, I have a problem, or I don't even know what this thing called therapy is all about, but can I give you a try?
Yeah.
Listen, ask that person for a free consultation. Yeah. Ask them for a sliding scale. If you don't have the money, ask them for a sliding scale. I know Taraji P. Henson, she's doing an amazing job finding therapists and pouring into them to give them money for other people who may not have it. Ask them what insurance do they take. Ask them, if you don't have that insurance, how can you get that insurance so you can come back and them take you. Don't be ashamed. Open up your mouth and say something. Speak up, speak out, and live if you're going to do this. We have to stop the stinking thinking by simply having these type of conversations. And I'm so grateful for your platform. I want to just keep doing what you are doing, because these are the platforms that we can make differences and changes in other people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am so grateful for you coming through. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Listen, you guys, I want you to run this back and run this back and run this back until you know that you absolutely are well within your rights to feel the way you feel.
That's right.
But you don't have to stay there.
That's
And
right.
I want you to reach out. If you don't have anybody that you can connect to, Marty, give them some contact information or something, or they can reach out to you and you can help them find some path to
Most
getting
definitely.
heard. Yeah.
The best way is through my website, mentalhealthmarty.com. Mental Health Marty, that's MARTY.com. I'm on Facebook, Mental Health Matters with Marty. On Instagram, mental_health_Marty. You do Mental Marty or Mental Health on YouTube on my name, and podcasts, any of those Mental Health Matters with Marty on any of the podcasts, Amazon,
Okay.
Apple, Pandora, all of those.
Okay. So Google him is what he's saying.
Google me.
Google me.
Google me.
You shall find me. Okay, and then give us the dates and times when you do you say you do it on Facebook, the Mental Health Matters.
Yes. I'm relaunching my personal show on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay.
And then on Tuesdays, we're doing a COVID mental health series. We've been focusing on COVID schooling right now, but we're going to be switching here, talking about COVID relationships, COVID marriages, COVID singleness, COVID life, and how do we get through this from our mental health perspective of just dealing with COVID, especially in our communities, as we know that there is a disproportionate amount of Black folk dying from this, and we want to look at all the comorbidities and what we can do to help us along the way.
Awesome. Marty, thank you so much.
Always. Thank you, darling. I got nothing but love for you.
Thank you. You guys, thank you. Oh, did you hear your comment? It says, great job and even better info. Blessings to Marty and to you for this platform. Thank you so much.
Wow,
thank you, guys. And that, my friends, is a wrap. I am so grateful that you've come. Of course, you know we will be here every single Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Email me at contact@lisadannielle.com for access to our sessions. Next week will be Ronnie Walker, and we'll be discussing whether or not men still want to get married. Until then, thank you so much. I love you. Good night.